124,000 chosen
Assured, we are here in alchemy,
trees.
transmuting your
Transmuting your
thoughts
thoughts into
into
gold.
gold. Why would
A risk of Yale.
Yes, and
Meet me in the laboratory.
Pastor Wright grew up in a small town in Tennessee, and he always had dreams of being an influential leader in his community and having like a family that everybody looked up to and aspired to be like. So when he met, let's just call her Lady T. When he met Lady T, she fit the mark. Like, she was beautiful, chocolate brown skin, intelligent. She had direction and goals in life. He thought she just would be the perfect, other side of his coin. So fast forward to later on in life, they have had children. She basically he was okay with her going to school and pursuing, education, because education was important to him. It looked good to have a wife that was intelligent, had degrees and stuff like that. But he didn't really intend on her actually, using the degrees. He just wanted it for show, kind of like, yeah, this is what, my wife has a degree and such. But she actually, had dreams of being a teacher, so that's what she wanted to pursue. It wasn't until they, hit some hard times that he allowed her to pursue her dreams of becoming a teacher. And even with that, she had to work within certain, parameters so that she could also be like the stay-at-home mom, on the offside that, like, basically taking care of all the needs of the children and stuff like that. So needless to say, image was very important to Pastor Wright. So his congregation was growing. He had a big flock. So he wanted his wife to, kind of tend more to his needs, like be more of like the first lady versus following her dreams. And of course, she didn't really like that too much, but trying to be the submissive woman to her husband and also upkeeping his image because, like I said again, image was very important to Pastor Wright. So she wanted to also uphold that, but it was kind of a conflict because she wanted to pursue her dreams as well. But she eventually ended up putting them on hold because Pastor Wright was very domineering. So if she didn't listen, he would get the belt and whoop her. Yeah, you heard me. He would get the belt and whoop her ass if she did not do what he said do. So they had 4 children. Well, okay, let me rephrase it. They had 3 children together, and he later got someone else pregnant, and they had their son, which the community wasn't really aware because she ended up raising the son as her own son. So the community didn't really know. He kind of like hushed the woman up who had the child, took the child, and it's kind of like, hey, you hush about this. This is what you're going to get for you hushing, but this is going to be me and my wife's son. Nobody's going to know about this. You heard. Being that he was domineering like that, the woman kind of went along with it. Plus, he kind of made sure that she was okay, to keep her quiet. But that's not important to the story. But that's not that important to the story. So anyway, he was also like this with his children as well. Image was very important. So they would also get whoopings when they got out of line, when they didn't, adhere to his image of what he portrayed to the community, because obviously he's a pastor. He want his congregation to look up to him, and if he can't handle his business at home, his congregation gonna look at him like, dude, how the hell you think you gonna lead us? So they had to uphold a certain image. The children had to be perfect. The wife had to be perfect. Everything had to look perfect. He couldn't allow them to see major mistakes. Of course, there's, small little things that you can be like, oh, my bad, and people can laugh it out. But major mistakes, like, no, the world could not see his true flaws or the family's true flaws. So in order to make sure that was the case, like I say, he kept everything in line. He wanted everything financially together. He felt like he handled the finances better. He wanted to make sure that they never was like in a impoverished situation. So the wife had to give her paychecks to him, and he had to make sure that everything was paid, taken care of, and that the money was delegated into areas of their life that made them look a certain way. So they never was on any type of government assistance or anything like that. He made sure that, like, I'm gonna make sure that I look like the man in front of everybody. And he was handling business because they didn't have to go through anything like that, government assistance or not able to eat and things like that. They they was living a pretty decent life. So boom. So I had a bit of a brain fart right here. Please excuse me. Back to the story. Also, so education was like extremely important to him. He wanted his children to do well in school, to get the best grades, and he also wanted them all to go to college and have jobs that reflected well on them as parents. Like, look how well we did. Look at the type of children we raised. Look at what they're doing. Look how much money they're making, and look at their influence in the world. So it's like I said again, all this really like kind of pushed through to all his children. They understood the assignment. They knew like, hey, we better make mama and daddy look good. We better make them look proud. We better make them look good. We better make them proud. So fast forward, later on in life, due to the upbringing, like I said, I mean, he did the best he could with what he knew. Am I agreeing with his methods? No, not at all. And this is in no way to bash anybody's parenting style. I too am a parent, and I know it's no handbooks to this. I too make errors as a parent. So this video is really just more so making parents aware, especially in our community, of where this stem from and the effects that it have on our children, whether we recognize it or not. The oldest daughter, Tabitha, okay, she ended up mirroring her mother. Like, so this okay. So at this point in the journey, all the children are grown except for the son, which is, I think he was 16 at this time. So the oldest daughter, she's out on her own. She has, she's married. She has a husband and children of her own. And she is basically mirroring the same relationship that her mother had. She basically has a husband. Everything looks good on the outside. He got a degree. She got a degree. They're both making decent money. But she also has to give her money to her husband. He also, when she get out of line, he beat her ass. And the children's ass. Spare the rod, spoil the child type shit. So she basically like mirrored, her mother's relationship. And also keep in mind too that she also was the mama's girl. Like, she resonated more with her mother. So, she took to more of her mother's way of doing things, basically like, okay, I'm going to submit to my husband. I'm going to do what my husband says. Even though I may not agree with it, I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want, it to look bad or people looking at us like our life is not together. So on the outside, people would be like, oh my God, like, they are such a, beautiful couple. Cause again, like, they were all beautiful children, so people look at the outside like, oh my God, like, she's so gorgeous. Look at her glowing chocolate skin. Oh, her husband he's handsome, tall, dark, and handsome. This is a beautiful couple. They got money. They living in a nice neighborhood, so on and so forth. But behind closed doors, he was stomping her ass out. It wasn't this happy relationship that everybody probably thought it was. So then we get to the next daughter, the middle daughter, which is Tina. So the middle daughter. So now we get to the middle daughter, which is Tina. Tina was the opposite. She was a daddy's girl, so she resonated more with the daddy. But she also internalized some of the things that she saw her dad do to her mom. So Tina, in the back of her mind, was like, shit, I'm not letting no man dominate me like this, so I'm going to make my own money, and I'm going to be in control of the situation. So she was. She was in control of her situation, and her husband, Martin, we're going to call him Martin, her husband was basically like, he was I don't want to say the woman in the relationship, but I'm going to say she was definitely like the dominant one in the relationship. Like, she made the money. He worked, but he would get fired often from jobs, and he was married previously as well. So he had a child from their previous marriage. She kind of controlled, his interactions with that previous child and what he could do for that child, like what she would or wouldn't do, or what she would or wouldn't allow him to do in concerns or in regards to that child. So she was pretty much like in control of that relationship. When they move into, she basically controlled, where they live, like, she made sure that she bought their cars and stuff like that. So she was, if he wasn't doing what she wanted to do, I could take my car back type stuff. Like, she was pretty much in control of everything. She kind of ran things like how her father ran things. Like, I pay the cost to be the boss. I'm the one who's making the money. And even if you are making some money, that's still my money. You know what I'm saying? So that was the kind of time that she was on. Needless to say, they're not together. At the moment of me speaking on this, they're not together. And I'm not sure why, because I haven't, talk to these people in a while. But yeah, he's gone on with somebody else, got children with somebody else, or a child with somebody else, and everything. Like, so he just moved on. But ultimately, like they had that type of relationship, and you could tell he wasn't happy because she constantly emasculated him. But I don't think she understood that it looked different. It's not good on either front, but it's even worse when it's on a man, because that's really emasculating to a man to have a woman like controlling your every move and telling you what to do and what you can do and can't do, and and so on and so forth. It's embarrassing in front of his friends and stuff like that. Like, so it was just it was bound to go in that direction because you. Okay, so then next you got the youngest daughter, which is Tiana. So Tiana went a whole other route. So Tiana was like, look, I don't want to deal with no man. I see my mom going through this with my father. Although I love my parents, I love my sisters, but I see what they going through. You got one, sister that's following after our mother, and her husband is beating her ass to get her in line like she wanted the children, which my mama went through the same thing. Daddy whooping her with a belt like she wanted the children. Like, no, like, I'm not dealing with that. Then my other sister, she got a husband that want to work half the time. She got to pay for everything, and she treat him like, like a child too. Like, no, if this is what this is all about. Like, I don't want to deal with men, and this is what it got to be like with men. I don't want it. So she ended up being a lesbian. Which still end up translating in kind of like a toxic way, because she ended up dealing with women that basically she had these toxic interactions with as well, where the women would cheat on her, would mistreat her, belittle her, all these type of things. So she dealt with it too. Even though she dealt with women, she dealt with the same type of energy, where she went through depression many times, like, just because like she was struggling to find her place in the world because of this, because she it's like she didn't know what she wanted to do. And then also to her family, because again, she was the black sheep due to her choices, she made the family look bad to a certain degree. So even though it was like, yeah, we love you, but it's like constantly, you need to be with a man, or how you gonna have children, and just constantly like bashing. So she kind of went back and forth with that too, in addition to her own inner battles and inner struggles with figuring out like what it is that she wanted in life and why she was making these choices. She kind of was going through it. Like, I feel bad for sis, but yeah, she was going through it. So then we get to the son, Terrence. Okay, now keep in mind, Terrence is not like he's like kind of like they half brothers, so to speak. I mean, of course they are. Like, I don't really jig off that hair brother, hair sister type stuff. Like, we siblings, period. You my brother, you my sister, period. But just for intents and purposes of this story, you know what I'm saying, I'm just making it clear, like, Terrence was not the biological child of the mother. So he lived in the house, like, he was still in the house. He was 16, but he took a whole other route as well. So he did not want to date black women. He decided, I'm going to date Caucasian women, and I'm going to treat them the way that it's like kind of like a cross between the two. It was like, I'm going to treat them like a child, but I'm also going to make them take care of me. I'm going to make them buy me everything that I want. I'm going to treat them like trash, and I'm going to beat their ass too. So he kind of took on the role too. So, moral of this story, like the parents did what they could, the best they could with what they knew, with the affirmation that they had, the data that they had to be parents. But the things that they did or did not do as parents ultimately translated to their children. Their children internalized this and, acted these things out throughout their life due to, and like I said, I don't want to put their choices completely on their parents, but if you can see the pattern, you can see it. Like, the things that they went through with their parents definitely had an effect. It's not to say that, because all the children love their parents. Like, it was, they grew up and they was very respectful to their parents. They never, came at their parents like, yeah, well, y'all did this and this is why we like, it wasn't like that. It wasn't no disrespect toward them. It wasn't no ill feelings toward them. I'm not even sure if they even have made the connection that a lot of things that they do or that they was doing in their relationships was, that those things could be traced back to the relationship they saw between their mother and their father. I just happen to see it, so that's why I'm using this story as an example, just to show like how 4 different children in the same household saw the same thing but internalized it differently, and acted it out differently in their own relationships as adults. Okay. Well, the next part of this transmission is about a girl, no, well, a lady. Well, the next part of this transmission is about a lady who had basically, moved away from her hometown, and she was coming back to visit for a little while, while she was like getting away from a situation, and she was coming back to visit her hometown because she wanted to, do something different in her life, and she was trying to, venture out and just, be on her own. She didn't have the best relationship with the father of her children, and she had 3 children, and all of them was by the same man, but they didn't have the best relationship. So she was trying to like move on with her life and get on her own 2 feet, and basically be like the provider for her children and show them like a way of life where they don't have to heal from so much trauma. She wanted to get away from all those traumas and break those generational curses and things. So she grew up in a family where basically they whooped ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is how they disciplined their children. This is what she grew up, learning as a child. Like, when you get out of line, you get that ass whooped. That's what it was, right? So boom. When she first got back to her hometown, they had like a dinner, the family get together. Like, it was like the little immediate family, not a whole bunch. It was, a few of the family members together having like a dinner. Everybody, just kind of eating and talking and catching up, because some people, some haven't seen each other in years. A lot of the people there hadn't seen her in years. Some of the people had seen her like, a couple years prior, but some of the people didn't see her. So, it's just like basically like a catching up session. Everybody eating good food and just talking and catching up. So within this dinner conversation, they're starting to have a conversation about whooping. And, we're going to call her Egypt. Egypt was like just basically like expressing to the family, like, hey, I don't whoop my children, and this is why. Like, she's explaining like the history of whooping, talking about slavery and how that was like kind of passed down from the parents or the grandparents, great grandparents, whatever. Like, that was passed down because the children, that was passed down because the parents at that time did not want the slave owners to beat their children, because the slave owners would not have no mercy, no compassion, none of that shit. They'll beat the children to death. Like, children get out of line, do something they don't like, they'll beat them children to death. You know what I'm saying? So the parents, in order to protect their children, they be like, no, I got it. You know what I'm saying? I do it. I take care of it. I discipline them. You ain't got to do it. So it was like their way of basically like keeping their children safe. Like, I with my own children, so you ain't got to do it. And it just kind of carried on. And then also too, people use the Bible and stuff like that, which is actually really not in the Bible. That spare the rod, spoil the child shit is not in the Bible. But people like to use that and say like, they justified in doing it because the Bible says spare the rod, spoil the child. That is not a verse at all in the Bible. I know where it's a similar verse. I can't recall it right now. It'll be it'll be somewhere in here, what the verse actually says about the rod and the child, because I don't want to misquote it, but it is something to the degree of those like parents who don't use a rod hates their child, but those who love their child like will discipline their child. Okay, disciplining don't necessarily mean whooping, but that's how we interpret it. And then also coupled with, we didn't want the slave owners to beat our children to death. We did what we had to do. We're in a different time now. So, we should be learning to implement different ways. At least that's how I look at it. Look at different ways of discipline. And yes, it's difficult, especially if you haven't learned how to do that. But, don't be lazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, give your child the best. You say you want to give your child the best, give your child the best. Whooping them is not the best. But we're going to get to that later, because now I'm just telling y'all the stories first. You can kind of maybe see a pattern right now since I said that. But anyway, so they having this conversation. And when I say everybody in the house was like against her, on her ass, like the whole house. And it was about, let me see. It was probably about like 7, 8 other, adults in that house. And so, and Egypt overstood it, you know what I mean? Because, she grew up in this environment. Like, she got her ass whooped when she was growing up. So she overstood like the dynamics of it. She knew where it came from. She overstood that it was a difficult thing to like not whoop your children if that's what you was taught. Like what else you gonna do? You know what I'm saying? Talk to your children. You don't want them to run over you. And a lot of parents, they prefer fear over respect. Or they look at them interchangeably. Like, well, you respect me because you fear me, and it's not the same thing. But nevertheless, and also too, like they use the Bible. The Bible say, you gotta fear God, and so, they apply the same thing to parents, whether they say it or not. They look at it like, hey, I'm the God of my child's life, and being that I am the God of this child's life, this child should fear me in order to do what I want them to do. Okay. Moving forward, back to the story, because I'm kind of getting sidetracked a little bit, my bad. But so, they having this conversation, and like I say, everybody in the house is going at Egypt. Like, they is not having it. Like, no. So the auntie Esther, which is at this point like basically the matriarch of the family, because the other, matriarchs like not Esther, Egypt's mother had transcended when she was a little girl. So Egypt got two brothers, Damon and Damien, and they they mother transcended when they was young, so they was raised by the grandmother and also the grandmothers, and also by this auntie Esther. So Esther, she just like, no, like we whoop children and this and the third, and ain't nothing wrong whooping no child, but if they get out of line, they ain't listening, So she like, she with the shits. So everybody like kind of followed the lead of that. Everybody kind of like, hey, yeah, well, it is what it is. Her daughter Toya, she like, hey, I don't really necessarily, like want to like beat the hell out of children, but hey, sometimes a child may need a little swat on the butt, and so is everybody else in the house. Portia, Ken, Damien, Lala, like everybody is just kind of like, what I'm saying, on the same type of time, and like, yeah, she right, you gotta whip these children ass these days. They don't be listening. Fuck that, you know what I'm saying? I'll be damn if a child run over me, like that type of energy, right? So, Esther's like not Esther. Egypt is trying to explain herself and like explain like her position on this. Like I said again, it's just really kind of, a mute kind of like situation. They're not really hearing her. She's not really, vibing with what they're saying. So it's just like, okay, like whatever. Like y'all say y'all want to whoop, that's on y'all. I'm not doing it. So fast forward. A little bit of time passed. One of Toya's friends named Rita came back, and she was going out of town, so she dropped off her daughter Maya. So Maya is a little rambunctious little girl, she got that energy, you know what I'm saying? And she just, just really just kind of active. She kind of want to do what she want to do. She curious, just like a child. She's a child. So Egypt's 3 children is there as well. Egypt has one daughter, so her daughter and Maya is playing, they doing little TikToks, doing little TikTok dances and all this kind of stuff. They, just having a good time. So after this conversation, I think Egypt kind of struck a nerve a little bit with Esther, more than Esther would probably want to admit. She probably didn't want to just come out and say like, like, girl, you get on my last nerve. Don't act like you don't know, like you ain't get your ass whooped, like you ain't grew up like this, like don't be trying to act like you better than us and all this. You know what I'm saying? So it was like kind of one of them things, but she kind of, she wasn't saying it, but you know what I'm saying? Like she did say it, but not in a way like she was really just mad. But you could tell it was blowing her that she felt like Egypt was like questioning her parenting and questioning how she do things. So boom. A little bit of time passed. Maya was doing something. Like she kept doing, like stuff little children do. You know how children, you got to repeat yourself a couple times. And I know that's a thing in our community. I ain't gonna keep repeating myself. When I say it one time, that's enough. Yeah, I get it. Children got short attention spans, and especially they want to do something. Like, don't get me wrong. Sometimes children can be testing you as well. Like, okay, let me see if you're gonna get away with it. But sometimes it's just really like they having fun. They didn't forget what you said already, and that's just really what it is. I don't think that warrants you, even though it may get frustrating. Don't get me wrong, I'm a parent, like I get it. Hell yeah, it's frustrating when you got to say something more than once to your child, but I don't feel like that warrants you like violently attacking them, you know what I'm saying, because you had to say something more than one time. Anyway, I don't recall what the little girl was doing, but whatever the little girl was doing, you know what I'm saying, like Esther was not having it. She was like, stop, you know what I'm saying? So Maya just kept doing like whatever she was doing. She wasn't, she kept doing it. It's like some time passed, she'd do it again. So in this process, like Esther called her over there, and popped on her butt. Pop, pop. And like everybody, like it was so awkward. Like everybody was kind of looking, and she looked Egypt right in the face. Like after she did it, it wasn't like it wasn't like now I done told you, I said you better stop this and third, and like kind of talking to her and letting her know like, look, you got popped because of this and that. It was more like looking at Egypt like, yeah, I did it. What? Like kind of energy. So everybody, and I think everybody was looking at Egypt looking at Esther and looking at Egypt because they like, okay, this is awkward. I think they all kind of knew that was more so like a slap in Egypt's face, like, okay, yeah, this is what we do. What you gonna do? You know what I'm saying? What you gonna do about it? So everybody was kind of like awkwardly looking, like, and plus, like I said, the little girl was doing something. It was irritating. It was a little annoying, and children can be annoying. Like that is what it is, but it wasn't something that warranted her to get smacked on her butt. Okay, whatever. So that day happened or whatever. And then I want to say like probably like a month or so maybe later, Egypt ended up running into Toya and Lala. Like, so Lala is Toya's girlfriend. So she ended up running into Toya and Lala, and like on the offset of them, like somehow Lala and Egypt end up like being like not necessarily like alone, like alone like that, but they was like not in the vicinity of everybody else where Lala, she couldn't be heard by everybody else. So then Lala ended up just like kind of low key, like talking, like, even like whispering, like, hey, like back when you were saying it about whooping children, like, when I thought about it, like, I agree with you. Like, I don't think children need to be whooped and stuff. Like, you should be able to talk to your child and them listen. And, it may take a couple times, but like children are children. They're going to be children and they learning. So basically the same thing that Egypt was saying in this situation. You know what I'm saying? So Egypt kind of looking at her like, you know what I'm saying? Like when Egypt was thinking back in her mind about it, Egypt like, yeah, when I was having this conversation, when I was saying this, you kind of was like, looking like, yeah. Like she kind of had to look on her face then, like, she kind of making sense. But she wasn't going to dare say nothing because that means she had to speak up in front of everybody, and she did not want to be on the side with Egypt with everybody like kind of attacking her like, no, you wrong. This is how we grew up, and what you mean you don't whip their ass, this and the third. Yada, 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 so on and so forth. So that's how that went. And, it was clear to Egypt at that point, like, people, even if somebody don't agree with it, they just going to go along with it because they don't want to be different. They don't want to stand out. They don't want to go against the crowd. And it is what it is. But Egypt going to stand her ground on what she said. She's not whooping her children. And that's just it. Okay, so that story kind of bring me to the third transmission of this story. So now Egypt is, staying with her brother Damon because... she, like I said again, she had left to kind of get on her feet and stuff like that. So she's staying with her brother Damon until, she get on her feet. Damon got a couple of children, but at this point in time, two of his children there, which is his daughter Zion and his son Zosiah. So, Egypt got 3 children, her daughter Misha, her son Michael, and her son Malik. Okay, so Malik is the baby. Okay, Malik had an accident. Malik peed on himself. She had got an air mattress so that her children can have something to sleep on and not, so they could just be kind of comfortable, have their own little space, sleep on, and not be on the floor. So she had got them an air mattress, whatever, and Malik had used the bathroom. Now, first of all, Malik, she had not had no issues out of Malik and Michael. Misha was a little bit harder to potty train, but Malik and Michael, their like potty training them was pretty easy. Like once she got it going with them, like it was pretty easy. Once they was potty trained, it was potty trained. They didn't really have a lot of accidents. Like Misha had more accidents than Michael and Malik combined. You know what I'm saying? So this wasn't something regular for Malik to do. Malik was like, I think like, well, Egypt thought that Malik was afraid to go to the bathroom because in Damon's hallway, it was a long hallway and it's dark, and it was like entities in there too, like, that's a whole nother topic, like, about their spiritual gifts, stuff like that, but they was able to see spirits and things like that. So Malik, he saw some things that he didn't like in that hallway. He was like, yeah, cause y'all walk through that hallway to the bathroom, like, so, and it's something that was uncommon for Malik. So Egypt knew that Malik, this wasn't something that, Malik would just do. So anyway, he had this accident, and, he told Egypt, he told his mom, like, hey, I peed on myself. Egypt was like, hey, make sure you get up. If you got to go to the bathroom, like, if you got to wake me up, and I will walk with you to the bathroom. But like, don't lay there, don't peel yourself. She go and clean him up, clean the bed up. Okay, no harm. Get the sheets up, like put him in the bed so they can go when they go wash. She can wash the sheets. Okay, so Damon like, that's it. Like, you ain't gonna whoop his ass. You know what I'm saying? And Egypt like, why would I whoop him for an accident? He like, that wasn't no accident. He was being lazy. And Egypt like, yeah, he was asleep. I'm pretty sure that, he didn't consciously say, I'm just going to lay here and pee on myself. Like, he hadn't done it. Like, if it was something that he just constantly did, I could see you saying that. But, you know what I'm saying? Like, why would he just do that? Like, it's not something that he normally do. So Egypt was like, I'm not whooping him about no accident. You know what I'm saying? He like, well, yeah, better be glad that wasn't my stuff he was on. Like, yeah, okay. And Egypt like, yeah, I like seeing how you think about stuff. Yeah, I would never let my children sleep on your furniture, so you could never have a right to say that you gonna whoop them or you want to whoop them for messing your stuff up. You know what I'm saying? Because like, if that was the case, if that did happen, then Egypt mindset was more like, I just have to pay to get your stuff clean. You're not gonna beat my children about no accident. You know what I'm saying? So Egypt was like just really thankful in that moment. Like, you know what, I'm thankful that, you know what I'm saying, I got my children, they own little space to sleep. So if they mess something up, it's something that I pay for. You ain't got to worry about it. So anyway, fast forward. So now all the children want to sleep on the air mattress. It's kind of fun. It's like, pillowy. They kind of want to jump on, even though Egypt like, hey, don't jump on it, because I'm not going to be going to buy no other ones. You know what I'm saying? Y'all better, you're going to be sleeping on the floor. You know what I'm saying? So they all want to sleep together, they cousins and stuff like this, so on and so forth. So boom, one night, Zion, you know what I'm saying, she peed on herself. You know what I'm saying? Now Zion is older than Malik. Zion is, more around Michael's age, you know what I'm saying? So she a little bit younger than Misha, but like right there at Michael's age. So anyway, she peed on herself, and then she got up apparently and went to the bathroom, like, cleaned herself off, put the underwear behind the door and laid back down. But she didn't lay back down in that spot because that spot was wet, of course. So she laid down on the other side of the bed. You know what I'm saying? Because at first she was laid right next to Misha. You know what I'm saying? Because, they like little cousins, girl cousins. They laying next to each other, talking as they go to sleep. So they lay right next to each other. But now she all the way on the other side of the mattress. So Damon peeped this, and he like, somebody peed in the bed, and I better not be one of mine, because I'm going to whoop the ass, So Egypt like, well, if they did, it was an accident. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, we washed the blankets and stuff. I wipe, clean the mattress off with the bleach, with bleach and stuff like that. It's not that big of a deal. Just tell them, like, hey, if you gotta go to the bathroom, don't just lay there. Let somebody know if you scared, and somebody will get up and go with you. Like, don't just lay there and do that. So Damon like, nah, fuck that. They my know better. They know better. They know better than to pee in the bed. And I think he was like kind of, I think he kind of suspected that it was one of his, but he was hoping that maybe it wasn't. You know what I'm saying? So boom, the children get up, and Egypt, asking her own children like, hey, did y'all pee? And being that it was right next to Misha, embarrassingly like, I don't know, like, I'm sorry if I did that. Like, I don't know how that happened. And, you could just see the embarrassment in her face. And she just like, if I did that, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I didn't even know I did it. And she just basically like kind of taking ownership because it was right next to her. And so Egypt like, okay, check yourself. Like, are you wet? So she feeling around. She like, no. You know what I'm saying? And she like, so Egypt like, okay, let me check y'all. So she called the boys over there. She checking them. Neither one of them wet. She like, come here. So she like, well, let me check you again. So she checked Misha. Misha not wet. So she like, okay, well, they not wet. So he checked his children, and they not wet either. But then he noticed that Zion got on something different. You know what I'm saying? So he like, where the stuff you had on before? Let me see your backpack. So she go get her backpack, and he like, where the other clothes you had in here? Like, hey, this what you got? Like, this, you got this on? Like, you didn't have this on. So he checked the bathroom, and sure enough, she didn't put her underwear behind the door. So he like, he go off. He like, go get in the tub. You know what I'm saying? Like, I asked you, did you use it on yourself? You said no, because at first she did. When I was asking my children, like, Misha was like basically like trying to take ownership of it, but his children was like, no, Josiah didn't do it. So he like, no, but Zion knew she did it, but she like, no, she like, no, I didn't pee on myself. But anyway, so he just like going off like, you lied, I asked you, da da da, like you getting your ass whooped. We walked the bam. So Egypt not wanting to say anything in front of the children, like, I'm not gonna, bust you out. I'm not gonna say anything in front of your children, like to like, downgrade you as a parent or to, make you look bad as a parent. But when everybody was kind of like doing their own thing and nobody was really listening, Egypt was like, hey Damon, like that's not cool. Don't whoop that child over an accident. He's like, well, it's not just because of that. It's also because I asked her and she lied. I may have, like let it go and just told her to go take a shower, but like she is gonna sit in my face and lie. And so like Egypt like, well, she lied because she didn't want her ass whooped. He like, nah man, nah, she just be lying, da da da. So he ain't really trying to hear it. So Egypt trying to explain like, look, that's the psychology of a child. She don't want no ass whooping. So yeah, if she feel like she can get away with it, she gonna lie. But if she didn't think she was gonna get her ass whooped, she wouldn't have lied. She would have admitted that, okay, yeah, I did it. It was an accident. I'm sorry. Let me clean it up. Because that's if Misha really did do it, Egypt was, because Egypt, by Misha being a little bit older, Egypt wasn't gonna clean up behind her like that. She was gonna tell her to go clean herself up, and she was gonna have Misha to clean up her own pee. So that's what Egypt was trying to tell Damon, like, like if it wouldn't have been a threat of her getting a whooping, she would have probably admitted that she did it and just would have cleaned up her mess, and that could have just been that. But knowing that she was gonna probably get her ass whooped for doing it, she like, nah, I didn't do it. I don't know what you're talking about. It wasn't me. You know what I'm saying? It's four of the children in this bed. It wasn't me. You know what I'm saying? So he's like, okay, we gonna see. So when she come out the bathroom, he asked her, he's like, why you lie? I asked you, did you do it? Why did you lie? And she didn't know the conversation that we had. She straight out said, she was like, because I thought I was gonna get a whooping. She didn't say thought, she said, because you was gonna whoop me. And he just looked at Egypt and dropped his head like, dang. He's like, you know what? Egypt just saved you. Thank your auntie. So she like, thank you, auntie. And Egypt like, like, no problem, baby. Like, but just be honest. Like, don't lie to your father. If he asks you a question, like, just be honest with him and communicate with him. Like, if you feel like that, just tell him, like, I want to tell you the truth, but I don't want to get a whooping if I tell you the truth. Like, just be honest with him, so on and so forth. So, okay, boom, that was that. Now we're going to get to the last transmission of this story, this whole thing, and then we're going to wrap it up, okay? So the last one is about a little girl named Sade. So when Sade, also again a child that grew up in a household where they got their ass whooped. Not only did they get their ass whooped, basically it's like respect all authority figures no matter whatever the authority figures say, they right, you wrong type of energy. And you just don't speak up. Like, she grew up in an era where like other adults was allowed to whoop your children. I'm not, so okay, I'm gonna say this. I'm not against other adults correcting a child, even if that child is not theirs. If you see a child doing something that's detrimental or harmful, as an adult, I feel like you have a responsibility to correct that child and say, hey, don't do that or whatever. Not physically disciplining them, not you going up and smacking a child or whooping a child or whatever, but yeah, to correct the child that you see doing something that's not good for them or detrimental. I feel like, you as an adult, you should do that, okay? So let me say that. But to basically tell a child that they have no rights to say anything, they basically, they can't say anything, they can't, speak up when it's an adult in a picture or authority figure. Like, I think that's just teaching them to not, to not speak up for themselves and to not defend themselves, if it's an adult, in which they kind of like lowers their confidence and make them feel like, if it's somebody in a position of authority, that I don't have rights. You know what I'm saying? So, so moving forward, okay. Sade was on his family reunion trip, and they was in this room, like she was in the room, like, so she was young, just being fast, she with her older cousin, let's call her older cousin Lisa. So Lisa then hooked up with Joe and Ben, and she then brought, she like, come on, let's go to Joe and Ben room, cause it's like a family reunion, so it's like at a hotel and stuff. And how it go, like sometimes like family be bringing like friends and stuff like that and stuff too. So she like, come on, like let's go to Joe and Ben room, da da da. So she like, okay, Sade like, okay, she young, she looking up to her big cousin. She's like, okay, let's go, I'm gonna do what big cousin doing. So they go, and they like in this room, and they just, like I say, they being feds. Now keep in mind, Sade is young, like she is young, and Ben is like, he basically adult, he like 20, you know what I'm saying? And so, but like, so is Lisa and Joe. Like Lisa and Joe and Ben is like all around the same age, but Sade is young. She like 12. You know what I'm saying? This man is like 20. But like I said again, she being fed. She doing what her big cousin doing. She thinking it's, it's cool. Like, big cousin do it. Big cousin says, okay, let's do it, So they in the bed, and being like, basically, he not penetrating her, but he basically like,
Trigger warning, extreme.
Trigger warning, like, just being real, like he rubbing himself on her, and and it's it's like, basically they like, it's skin to skin, you know what I mean? They not completely, unclothed, but it's like, it's skin to skin. So he basically like rubbing himself on her, he kissing her. And like I said again, keep this in mind, this girl is like 12 years old and he is like 20. Okay, so she like, they doing it or whatever, and then like she feel like, a wet substance, and she not really fully aware what's really happening, again, because she's like 12. So she not really sure exactly what's happening. She knows she feel it, and now she a little nervous, you know what I'm saying? So, okay, fast forward, after this reunion, everybody go back home, whatever, right? Now, keep in mind, don't get it twisted. This little girl at this time, she thought she knew what she was doing. She didn't know what she was doing, but she thought she knew what she was doing. She liked Ben. She thought Ben was cute. Even though he was an adult, she thought he was cute. And, she like, oh, he's so fine. She thought she done did something, okay? So they get back home. They go their own ways, whatever. She don't see Ben no more, So now, she have a period too at this time. So she have her period, and so this, it's coming around time for a period, and her period ain't coming. So now she getting nervous. She like, oh shit, like, I hope I'm not pregnant. She don't really understand, like, how this whole process work and stuff, because he never honestly, like, he never penetrated Sade, but she didn't know that, she didn't know. She didn't know fully, what was going on. She just knew that she felt this substance, and she knew that he basically released a substance that could get her pregnant, and it was on her. You know what I'm saying? So, she like, oh my God, like, I'm not on my period, this and the third. So she nervous. She don't know who she could talk to. She can't talk to her grandma. Her grandma Pat did not play that shit. So she like, I know if I say something. And then, okay, so also backtrack a little bit. Right before this happened, she had another cousin who was also 12, who at like 11, I think at like 11, he had got like pregnant and had a child, and she never saw that cousin again. Like, after that child, like, she, at that time, she didn't find out till like after the cousin had the baby, but at the time, she just like, what happened to my cousin? Like, why she ain't come back around? And then I want to say, like, like a few months after, like, and after she actually had the baby, that's when it was like, oh, well, she had a baby, and, we didn't want her fast ass around here, so that's how it is. So she like, what's gonna happen to me if they found out I'm pregnant? Like, they gonna discard me, they gonna throw me away, like, what they gonna, I know I'm gonna get my ass whooped, first of all, but what else gonna happen to me? So she nervous. She like, oh my God. So she got an uncle, this Uncle Larry, right? So she like, talk to Uncle Larry, like, hey, I don't know, like, I'm nervous, you know what I'm saying? Like, I haven't had my period, and I don't want to go to Grandma Pat, because I feel like Grandma Pat, she ain't gonna talk to me. She's gonna beat the shit out of me, you know what I'm saying? And she kind of heard stories too, like when her mother was pregnant with her, and her mother was 18 when she got pregnant, and Grandma Pat beat the shit out of her while she was pregnant, because she was pregnant. So she was like, shit, I don't know what she gonna do to me. She gonna probably kill me. So she was scared. So that is uncle, you know what I'm saying? He was like, oh, he took that like, oh, so you out here, you being fast, okay. So he like, well, you out here doing stuff, his perverted man, he felt like, okay, well, shit, I can get me a turn in, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so boom. he ended up telling her, like, like an old remedy that they do, like they drink some tea or whatever, and sometimes that'll bring it down. If they don't bring it down, I'll take you to the doctor myself, and we'll figure it out. So she like grateful to him, like, please don't tell Grandma Pat, please don't tell. He like, oh, okay, I won't, you know what I'm saying, but what you gonna do for me, you know what I'm saying? So she don't really overstand all this like that. She like, I don't know what that means, so he like, well, you owe me. So after that whole situation, this uncle ended up moving in with them. You know what I'm saying? Like right after this happened, the uncle ended up, because he had his own little spot at first, whatever. He ended up moving in with them. So now, he doing little things. You know what I'm saying? So when she goes to the bathroom, like let's say she had to come in there to grab something, he in there shaving. She like, hey, can I get the such whatever, right? He like, oh, come on. So she come in and she like reaching in the cabinet or whatever to get whatever she trying to get, or whatever it is, and he like pressing up against her, like rubbing up against her, and getting erect, you know what I'm saying? So she feeling it, she like, what the, you know what I'm saying? Then he like touching on her and stuff like that, and and this is a part of, you owe me, I kept your secret, like, so hey, you know what I'm saying, this between us. So fast forward, this going on, and it's like gradually increasing to the point where it's like the middle of the night, and he got, he playing some music, and he like, come here, like, show me that dance that you was doing earlier, because Sade loved to dance. So, and she did some inappropriate dances, which nobody really checked her on it, you know what I'm saying? Actually, it was like encouraged, you know what I'm saying, by some other family members. So, she did like this, this is like back in the Luke phase. So she was doing like this doo-doo brown, popping her ass and, twerking and all this shit. So he like, yeah, show me that dance you was doing earlier, da da da. And so she like, what? And he like, that dance you was like, doing this. So she like doing a dance on him, and of course, he getting erect, and he rubbing on her and all this kind of stuff. And so eventually, like these little encounters became more and more frequent, and basically it came to the point where he was basically full on molesting Sade. Okay, Sade never knew how to speak up about it, never knew how to say anything, and she also thought that if she told, he was going to tell on her, and she was going to be in trouble for that little pregnancy scare, even though, of course, she ended up having her period, so she wasn't pregnant, but she was just scared that he was going to tell, and so then it became like I say, it increased, like what he was doing increased, and she just never felt like she could say anything. And then she had another situation where she started smoking weed, and then it just dug her even further in the hole with him, because he ended up popping up over there while she was high, smelled the weed. He was like, okay, he helped her spray and open up the windows and all this kind of stuff, and like, I'm not gonna tell, but you know what I'm saying, again, you owe me. So now at this point, this is where it kicked up a notch. Now he got his own place at this point again. So now it kicked up a notch. So now it's not just, grinding and filling up on and all this kind of stuff. Now he want full on contact. Now he want to be actually penetrating everything. You know what I'm saying? So that started like, a whole situation of her doing this. And then she started to feel like, this is wrong. And she went on and did it for a while, and then she also felt like she wants to protect her other little cousins and stuff like that. She was like, okay, you know what, I'm just gonna let it happen to me. It's already happening, so that it don't happen to them. So she actually kind of made like a little pact with him, like, you just can't do this with none of the other cousins, da da da. And him being the creep that he was, he took it like, oh, well, she was just jealous, she just didn't want him, she wanted him to herself, when she really just was really trying to protect her other, her family members, you know what I'm saying, from experiencing the same thing. So anyway, saying all these stories, so that was the end of those transmissions as far as like the story time. I wanted to tell those things that I wanted to get into, and I'm only gonna do this a little briefly. Like, the common thing for all these things are things that children internalize, like you beating children and not allowing them to express themselves freely and stuff like that. Like, these things have a really profound effect on children, and children end up learning in adulthood, as a child, but it goes on into adulthood. They learn to not speak up for themselves. They learn to not express themselves when they know something is wrong, because they feel like they're not going to be heard. They're not going to, like, no one is going to believe them. No one's going to defend them or protect them. So they just kind of go along with it. And I've tried to express this and explain this to several adults. This is something, especially within our community. I can't speak on other communities. I know other communities, they may have other, discipline their children in similar ways, but I can only speak for my community because this is where I grew up. But this is not something that we inherently did. This is not something that we always did. I know people think because it's been going on for so long that we always did this. We always whipped our children. No, we did not. You know what I'm saying? We allow children to be children. We allow children to be curious and explore. This is something that was taught to us. This was something that, we inherited. We took on from the slave owners. Like this ride thing, like the ride, that ride that we talk about, like this, like a lot of things that's in the Bible. I'm not trying to knock nobody's religion or anything, but just being real, a lot of things that's in the Bible has been used to control us, to manipulate us into being subservient, to being docile. That same ride that they speaking about in the Bible is the same ride they later go on and the police use as batons, or as some would call it, nigger beaters, or what is it? Well, I don't think I can say the word on here. We're gonna say ninja beaters or ninja be good sticks and stuff like that. Like, and like this is like terms they use. I remember hearing that ninja beater thing as far as they go. The batons, the police batons, like these are things they use to keep black people in line. These are tactics that they use to keep us in line. And then we enforce these same tactics on our children. And our children grow up to be docile. Like the same mentality that was put upon us, we place these same limitations and thought processes on our children. Right now to this day, like I had children, and it's somebody, I'm going to use personal, because some of these stories that I just told, like, well, all of them are true. But the first one, some of the details, I had to maybe like edit a little bit because it wasn't my personal story for me to say, or like, I wasn't in the household or around it. But the other stories, I was more so around these stories, so I can kind of like be more detailed. So they was 100% like accurate to the point, right? So anyway, but like with my children now, one of my children do not like hugs. You know what I'm saying? And it was like something that happened recently where somebody was like, they hadn't seen him in a while. I was like, oh, give me a hug. You know how adults like, hey, give me a hug, child. And my daughter was like, I looked at her because I was trying to take the cues from like, if you don't want no hug, I'm riding with you. So she was like, yeah, it's okay. Like, she hugged or whatever. And my son kind of looked like, and I asked him, I was like, you want a hug? And she was like, well, I don't care what your mama said. I'm like, well, no, I teach, and I know that's not how she meant it. Like, I don't care what your mama say, but that's kind of demeaning or like kind of downplaying, a parent. Like I say, I wouldn't do that to somebody parent. Like, I don't care what your mama said, but I feel like sometimes when parents do that, it's an old school way of thinking, but it makes the child feel like, well, my mama can't protect me or my parent can't protect me because this person say I'm gonna do it anyway, regardless of what your mama say. And in situations like that, I feel like you as a parent, you need to let it be known, like, no, what I say do go. This is my child, and I said no, or this child said no, and I'm defending my child. And I know like this new age kind of thing, like parents like, oh, well, you can't tell children nothing. No, it's not that. Some parents are actually realizing that the damage that could be caused by not allowing your child to have autonomy of their own body or their own mind is damaging. It causes damage, and later on in life, they never learn how to speak up for themselves or to assert themselves in situations where they know something is not right. And this allows them to be abused as adults. This allows them to be taken advantage of as adults because they don't learn how to speak up for themselves. It's other ways that you could discipline your child. I'm not focusing so much on that, but I just want to, like, as far as in this video, I'm not focusing as much on that. I got it. It's going to be posted here. But my point was that I wanted to more so speak on is you have to be able to speak up, or you have to be able to allow your child that space to speak up and say when they don't like things, or say when things make them feel uncomfortable, or say when something is just not right. You gotta allow them that space, because if you don't, they're gonna grow. Like, a lot of our children be molested and taken advantage of by adults for this very reason. They are allowing adults to do certain things to them because they are afraid to speak up, and they are afraid to speak up because as a child, they were told like your voice doesn't matter, and if you do speak up, I'm whoop your ass. And when adults say to do this, you better do it. And so sometimes children don't know. I know you may think, well, okay, well, you should know right from wrong if they doing this. Like adults can be more manipulative, and they have more life experience, and they know how to do and say things to make a child get in line. They call it grooming. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that person, when going back to that situation I just spoke on, I'm not saying that person was trying to groom my children, but because I had been down that road and I recognize those type of tactics, I'm going to nip that shit in the bud. No, you're not going to, she tried to wink, like, hey, like, hey, I'm playing, but don't let her know. Like, no, I don't want my child to think that for any moment that I'm okay with an adult or anybody telling her it's okay for me to touch your body even if you say it's not okay. I'm not going to make her think that's cool. Playing or not, I'm not going to make her think that that's okay. You know what I mean? So that's what this video was really kind of all about. Like, allowing your child the freedom to speak up and not use these tactics that was passed down to us from slave owners and our grandparents or great grandparents or parents because of their own survival instinct. Like that was something that they felt they needed to do as a form of survival. We are not in that mode. We're supposed to be moving into a different phase in our life, and in that phase of our life we are supposed to be protecting our children and teaching our children also how to protect themselves in the event that we are not there to protect them. And we don't do that by beating the shit out of them. That's that. I trust that these stories that I put together for this video to basically explain my position on whooping was received in the way that I intended for it to be received. I changed the names. Like I said, these are real stories. So I changed the names of the people in the stories so that, just to protect people who don't want their business out there. Cause I'm not trying to blast people for their, what they're doing. And even if somebody, that's watching this that know me personally, like, hey, that sound familiar, that sound like, this is not an attack. This is like just basically examples to basically like show my position and why I feel the way I feel. Like at the end when I just, gave the little story, not a story time, but basically like gave a little example of how, I am with my children and like how I promote them not, allowing adults to just kind of, run with the narrative. Hey, I'm the adult and you just got to do what I say, and what your mama say don't matter. What, like, do not let your children feel that you do not support them and have their back when it comes out. Like, okay, like use discernment. Like I said, of course, if your child is doing something that they shouldn't be doing and an adult say, hey, they was out here throwing rocks at people's cars and I had to tell them to stop. Obviously, you're going to agree with that adult, say, hey, nah, what y'all, don't be doing that. You know what I'm saying? Was y'all throwing rocks at people's cars? And then they like, well, yeah, but no, ain't no but. Don't do that. That is not cool. You break somebody's window, then who going to pay for it? And then that's when you had that conversation. And then you thank that adult. Thank you for saying something. Now, that don't mean that they out there throwing rocks and that adult say, I'm going to whoop your ass, and they come whooping your children. That's something totally different. No, you don't put your hand on my child. You come and you talk to me and you say, hey, this is what your child was doing, and I discipline my child. You know what I'm saying? And I think people feel like, because we not in an era where you could do that anymore, people feel like, well, that's wrong. Like, what happened to the good old days? You just whoop people's children. No, what happened is a lot of adults took advantage of that privilege, or sorry, I'm not even saying privilege. A lot of adults took advantage of that situation and used it to manipulate children and to groom children and to, okay, well, I'm not going to tell. Like I say, that's why I told that last one too, where Sade was going through that situation and it was like, the uncle was like, well, I'm not going to tell if you do something for me or now you owe me. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like when a child fear, like you want your child to fear you on the flip side of fear is your child may be doing some things that they wouldn't normally do because they so afraid of the consequences that they may receive from you finding out. Do you rather your child respect you and say, you know what, I know my parent gonna be disappointed, but I'd rather tell them so that they'll know, rather than me not tell them, than this person blackmailing me or extorting me or manipulating me or abusing me because of what I did, and I don't want to be in trouble at home. So, it's like, so it's that, and then it's also too, like I say, them just not knowing how to carry themselves as adults, and also them portraying things that that happen to them to other people because they don't know how to deal in relationships. They don't know how to cope in relationships because this is what they was taught growing up in these households, being beat, being, seeing that their parents being beat. They internalize these things. Children internalize these things and they exhibit them. They act them out as adults. They play them out as adults. So let's break these curses and teach our children right. If you are interested in seeing more content like this from me, leave a comment, let me know, because I have so many story times. I know I could be a little detailed and a little long-winded, but I feel like that's probably why I'm so long-winded, because I do like to talk, and I feel like this right here is like my lane, because I can use these stories and things, experiences that happened in my life or things that I have seen in my life to help others not go through the same thing, and in particular children. We got to do better for the children.
You are called. You are chosen.
124,000 chosen elite.
Assured. We are the new alchemists, transmuting your thoughts into gold.
A risk of Yale.
Yes, and
Meet me in the laboratory.